Hi, and welcome to Global's post-fight coverage of UFC 231. I'm Brayden Jagger Haines, joined by Matt Consalvo. Now, Matt, fans were really in store for a great fight. Max Holloway retains his featherweight title. What did you think of that fight?
I thought it was an unbelievable performance by both Brian Ortega, showing tremendous heart, and by Max Holloway, showing tremendous skill by outclassing and flat out dominating the undefeated Brian Ortega. You know, a lot of people thought Brian Ortega was going to dethrone the current champion, Max Holloway.
Let's talk about Max Holloway and the way he started putting on those strikes and the skill that he had behind them. I mean, those were skills that, the flurry of punches, he peppered off of Ortega. He walked in there with the crowd behind him. He actually just had a spectacle. He was a real showman to what was going on, making faces, laughing, even pointing. He was having a good time in there. What did you think of Ortega's performance in that?
Like I said, Ortega had tremendous heart. He was actually the favorite going in. Max Holloway, the current champion and still undisputed champion, was the betting underdog heading into the fight. A lot of people were really, really high on Ortega. They thought he was going to dethrone this champion who had been out for a year because Brian Ortega had finished every single one of his UFC opponents. He never went to the judge's decision. And he was getting outstruck like crazy in this fight, and he just kept moving forward. You know, he would try to land his one punch, but he would eat 3, 4, 5 by Max Holloway.
It was really like a pocket fight. Everything really stayed within the pocket. The distances was something almost mathematical for Max Holloway. He kept it in that pocket range that he wanted. And something that we saw was Ortega's granite chin. That Dana said something that was quite spectacular. He said Ortega was too tough for his own good, and that was really something that came through. Talk about that fourth round and in between the fourth and fifth round when the doctor stopped it.
Well, that fourth round, he was really getting outstruck, and his eye was really starting to swell shut. So it was almost hard to watch because he couldn't really see the punches coming, and I'm kind of glad the doctor stopped it in the fourth round because we didn't need to see him take any more damage.
That was true. He did take enough. Even the fans, you started hearing the oohs and ahs coming from the crowd in between that when they said that fight was going to go. It really was something that was perfectly well done, very professional, and a right decision on my part.
That's right. Despite being outclassed, he still was in the fight. He always had his moments. You know, he had little moments, but the fact is Max Holloway won every single round and looked like an undisputed phenom. Here's what he had to say after the fight.
I was just thinking, he's going to be in here for 5 rounds taking this much. I hope he's okay, but so be it. It is what it is. He's going to get damaged, you know. That's my game plan.
Now moving on to the co-headliner of the night was Joanne, former strawweight champion at 115 pounds, meeting Valentina Shevchenko from Russia at 125 pounds. So Joanne was going up a weight class, whereas Valentina was coming down to 125 pounds because she had previously contested for the title at 135 pounds against current champ Amanda Nunes.
And they both looked great at that weight. Honestly, those two performed perfectly at that weight. Joanna looked comfortable. She looked healthy. And so did Valentina. Valentina had a great performance. In fact, in that fight, they went the distance, and it was something that really was a dominant performance by Valentina. What took you off guard from Valentina's performance? What brought you to that fight?
The fact that she was dodging all the strikes from Joanna. Joanna is known to be a very effective striker, right, with her kicks and her punches, and she was hitting air all over the place. Valentina Shevchenko was slipping punches, dodging everything, and countering with much harder strikes and much more effective strikes. Not to mention her wrestling.
And that brings a great grounds to bring the 125 division, flyweight division for the women even further. Now that they have a champion who is willing to fight, this is what Valentina had to say right after she got her belt.
I'm very happy that because for me it's not just meaning the belt of UFC, it's meaning all my hard work that I was doing in martial arts, all my sacrifice for my sport, what I love so much, and this is reflecting in this belt.
Now, the lone Montreal native on the card, Olivier, the Canadian gangster Mercier, lost a unanimous decision to tough-hitting Gilbert Burns.
Not even just hitting. That fight was grueling. You saw Olivier Mercier at times on his back being held down by Gilbert Burns, even at one point in the first round being thrown down, violently thrown down. And once he was on the ground, he was held there for a very large portion of most rounds. even to the point where you saw him looking up at the clock, which was almost like heartbreaking. You saw him looking at that clock saying, how much time do I have here? And that sort of is grueling for a fighter to see that happen. But what did you see Gilbert do that was really something spectacular for him that?
He just showcased his superior Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I mean, he was able to control the pace of the fight and dictate where the fight took place. So he outstruck him on the ground because he was able to control him on the ground. So once you control a fighter, you kind of dictate the way the fight will go. And but what I did like is that in the third round, Olivier got up and they slugged it out for the final 10 seconds, and there was some great sportsmanship shown at the end of the fight because these two had previous...
They had a bit of a squabble, we could say. But what I did like is that squabble was ended. At the end of the fight, we had Gilbert talking to the media, and he said some kind words. Here's what he had to say about his opponent, Olivier Mercier.
I think it was very close to get a finish, but Olivier is a warrior. He guy survived from a TKO, survived from a submission. I'm happy with the performance.
In the preliminary portion of the fight, we had Elias going off against Erik Anders in a 3-round fight that was something of true heart. The Spartan mentality that Elias is known for, hence being called the Spartan, was in full force. Tell me about what you saw that and how it came through.
I describe that fight as a nail-biter because round one clearly went to Elias with his movement. He outstruck Erik Anders, moved his feet a lot and was evading most of Erik's hard strikes. Whereas in the second round, he absorbed some of those hard strikes, wobbled, dropped to a knee, and clearly lost that round. So going into the third, we knew it was tied 1-1, and that third round was super close, much heart, showcased by both men. And Elias got the split decision. One judge thought Erik Anders won, and 2 judges gave the nod to Elias. Therefore, he took home the victory.
I almost was so far ahead on the first round that sometimes you lose focus when you're pulling away that far. And sometimes it takes a punch in the face, like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing right.
6 Canadian fighters came out to Toronto. 3 of them did come up on top, in addition to Elias. Tell us a bit more about those 2 fighters and why they're rising stars in the UFC.
Right. Well, we had Calgary native Hakeem Douadou facing off against a hard-hitting Kyle Bochniak in the featherweight division, 145 pounds. Look forward to see what he does next. It was a tough,
unanimous decision.
Yeah, it wasn't really tough. I mean, it was surgical. It was a surgical and clean performance. I don't think he got... his face was clean at the end of the fight, you know what I mean?
Although he didn't say he liked his performance, it was very tactical, very good, and very appreciative to watch something like that. Very surgical. Tell us a bit about the Manitoba native.
Right, Winnipeg's own Brad Katona, Ultimate Fighter winner. He earned a great unanimous decision over hard-hitting Matthew Lopez, American, in a 135-pound division. Looking forward to what he does next.
Now, although we had a lot of those Canadian fighters, the crowd was also cheering for everyone. I mean, I've never seen that crowd so loud. And it was a packed house at the Scotiabank Arena, and it really sounded like one. Tell us a bit of what you saw and heard. Give us a bit of the vibe that you saw.
I mean, like Max Holloway is from Hawaii, and he's selling out the Toronto's Scotiabank Arena. I mean, it's crazy. Fans there, they appreciated the sportsmanship, they appreciated the athletics that were going on. They didn't really mind that there wasn't so much Canadian talent on the card. They just appreciated a great night of fights, and that's exactly what the UFC delivered at UFC 231.
And so that really is a good foresight to see what's coming in the pipeline for UFC, a potential Quebec City bout, maybe even further things. Canada and the UFC have a good relationship now, and we could see something more in the future.
That's right. Canada proved to be not only fans of their own Canadian fighters, but fans of MMA, fans of mixed martial arts. And I can't wait for the next one.
Well, that wraps up our UFC 231 coverage. I'm Brayden Jagger Haines.
I'm Matt Consalvo, and I want to say a special thank you to our video journalist, Jonah Aspler, for shooting everything for us. This was our coverage of UFC 231 from Global News.
Thanks for watching.